What's up, everybody? Michael DiTullo here with another designer unboxing. I'm super excited to dig into this product. This product is called the SL PDX by a company called Speedland. It's a $375 trail running shoe, and I've been dying to dig into this thing and see what it's all about. So Speedland was started by two friends of mine, Dave Dombrow and Kevin Fallon. Uh, Dave and Kevin have worked in executive positions for Under Armour. Dave was Chief Design Officer. Kevin was VP of Innovation. Before that, they worked together at Puma. And before that, they worked together at Nike, where I met both of them way back in 2003 or so. So this is kind of really the culmination of all of their years of working together. They left Under Armour a few years ago and then started their own brand earlier this year. So let's cut into this thing and see what it's all about. I know there's a lot of high-tech components in it, and I want to see how it all comes together. First, just kind of outside of the box here, some nice Speedland taping on the shipping box. I'm a big fan of those little brand moments. Little things like that, I think, make a big difference. They add up. Oh, and you got some stickers out of the box here. Why do we love stickers so much? I don't know why, but designers and people, we just love to get stickers. It's just like, you got something a little bit free, feels good, and you're advertising for that brand. A small investment for them to get a little free advertising out of folks. All right, let's see the actual packaging here. So very simple shoebox here. I assume this is all kind of direct to consumer, not in-store sold right now. So we just have a subtle, very subtle deboss on the craft packaging. Just the size here. If anybody wants to ever send me some shoes, that's my size. No illustrations, nothing, just really clean and simple. And I appreciate that for their first product, keeping it simple. It also helps it to feel a little bit premium, which is a premium product. So first thing out of the box here, we've got a little bit of a card talking about some of the performance in the product. Kind of the three big things they hit on the website and in other videos is they talk a lot about this Michelin traction system, which is really unique, where you can cut down the actual individual pieces of traction to the height that you want for the type of trail you're running on. This Carbitex plate that's on the inside is a special type of carbon fiber plate that has a little bit more spring back. And this kind of BOA fit system. BOA has been used on a bunch of different shoes in the past, specifically mostly on, probably you'd seen it on cycling shoes or snowboard boots. I think the system on this is a little bit interesting, a little bit unique, so I'm interested to check it out and try it out on some trails around here. All right, let's dig into the shoe itself. These are very light, which is nice, even with the stuffing in it. Let's get a sense of how light it is. It's an easy thing to make a shoe heavy. It just kind of, the materials add up, and so it's difficult to make a light shoe, especially when you're adding a bunch of performance features. But this is, once you get all the stuffing out, a pretty light shoe. One of the things that strikes me out of the box right away is that you could tell it's a little bit of a wider last, compared to like some of those Nikes that I had reviewed previously, like those Air Max 270s. You could see this is more of a natural foot shape. So if you have a wider foot, it's probably going to be a little bit more comfortable. It's also just going to allow your foot to flex probably a little bit more naturally. It's a really interesting construction for a performance shoe. This is what you would call a cup sole construction. So this outsole is molded from rubber, right? There's no visible midsole. There's no foam. So the sidewall is all rubber, and then that rubber is stock fit or glued to the upper, and then stitched for a little bit of extra security there, so it doesn't delaminate. It's a common construction in skate shoes because it's very durable. It's a common construction in kind of like 1980s basketball shoes and other tennis shoes, other court shoes. You don't see it very much in trail running. Uh, and that's because it tends to be very durable, yes, but on the other hand of that, it tends to be very heavy and it tends to be very inflexible. You can see they've addressed that here by stepping it down. So the sidewall here looks to be maybe about half the thickness of a cup sole typically would be. So that's gonna really take down the weight. It's also very low there. You can see they're making it as low as possible here on the side and adding this little notch here. This little notch is going to basically address some of the inherent stiffness of a cup sole just by dropping down the amount of material. You could see that's kind of providing a natural hinge in that area. Let's check out this cuttable traction. So this is really unique. I don't know if I've really seen this in a commercial trail running shoe before. So you can see that the traction has these kind of different height markers here. And this is designed to be clipped with like a standard pair of clippers, and you could just bam, pop off this traction to get it to be a little bit lower. If you're running on a surface that's probably a little smoother, this deep traction is going to be great probably for a really loose trail. But if you're running on kind of some mixed surfaces, you might want it to be a little bit lower. And then this is also really interesting. I had noticed this in one of their videos. You can actually use those same clippers to clip these two little nubs here, and those nubs are hollowed out on the inside. So if you clip those, that's going to create these two drain holes in the center, which is, I don't know if I've ever seen that before. That is super unique. Obviously, they've worked with Michelin on this outsole. I think also just some really nice kind of detailing that I would expect from Dave and Kevin. I love just this little simple run with the land marking here. Just little things like that. I don't know. They kind of add up to mean something. Moving to the upper, it looks like, really nice this kind of ribbed ripstop upper with just some welded support. So not a lot of other stitching or anything going on, which is going to be nice in a trail shoe to kind of keep that stitching kind of minimal. And then that ripstop area transitions to a knit area here. So everything that's going around the collar and what would traditionally be the tongue is a piece of engineered knit. So you can see that is very stretchy. So this ripstop's gonna be probably naturally water repellent. The knit is not water repellent, but very stretchy. So they're keeping the stretch areas right to kind of the top of your foot here and the collar. And you can see that's all basically one piece, one layer. So, taking out a lot of materials to keep it light and keep it kind of like one layer of material close to your foot, which is going to be nice. Interesting though, I think unlike a lot of knit shoes, they have stitched in this whole little heel area here, which is padded. Actually, it's quite padded right over kind of where your heel kind of narrows here. And I'm gonna assume when I put these on, that is gonna really help kind of lock down my foot. Let's see if you can see that in here. So right here, that feels like maybe 10 mils of foam right there. So and then it goes back to zero foam just below that. So your heel, once that's all fitted together, is gonna be quite locked in here. Kind of toe down, very unique toe down with this shoe. So you've got multiple pieces of non-woven. This is kind of a non-woven synthetic, very thin, very light, wrapping over the foot and lacing up these two separate boa things, which is kind of interesting. So you can really kind of dial in the midfoot a little bit separately, which is pretty. I haven't quite seen that before. I think that's going to be, I can't wait to get that on my foot to try that out. Let's see what's going on inside. So I mentioned how this outsole is a cup sole. There's no foam here, right? So we're talking about a single layer of material around most of your foot, and then a single layer of rubber under your foot, but there's no cushioning. So that means all of the cushioning has to be handled by this drop-in sock liner. Typically a sock liner in a shoe is just going to be a piece of die-cut EVA. Maybe it's a molded piece of EVA. I'm going to assume there's a little bit more going on with this though, because it's doing so much work, right? Where you would have in a traditional running shoe, a lot of that cushioning work would be done by the midsole. All of this is going to have to be done by this drop-in midsole. Oh yeah, this is quite a bit thicker than your typical drop-in midsole. A typical midsole might be 5 to 10 mils tops. This is quite a bit thicker. It wraps really far up the sidewall, so you get this kind of nice heel cup here. You can see the two drain holes where if I cut those outsole plugs, if I had cut those outsole plugs on the inside here, you'd be draining right through that. And then there's a couple of inlays here. So we've got a nice little designed in Portland, but this is a different, I'm trying to see if that's pour-on. No, maybe might just be a little non-woven inlay there. And this kind of interesting circular one here. And then on the bottom, we've got this Carbitex plate. So this is a unique blend of carbon fiber. Let's see if I can get this open. It says install versus remove. Let's try. Not sure if I turn this or, oh, do I just turn the whole plate? Interesting. Got it. Okay. Interesting. So it looks like you can remove this plate if you want it to be more flexible. That's really cool. Remove plate for maximum flex and feel. Or you can add this plate if you want it to be a little bit more stiff. What I believe the difference between the Carbitex and a traditional carbon fiber is that carbon fiber tends to be very rigid, which is nice, but that rigidity makes it somewhat brittle. And so when you use it full length in a shoe like this, it can crack. I've used it in a few of the Jordans that I worked on. The Jordan 21 PE had a pretty long carbon plate, but we had to shorten it a little bit because it would typically crack right under the balls of the feet. It's nice for that rigidity. It gives you a little bit of spring back, but you don't want it to crack, especially when you're paying $375 for a product like this. I've talked a little bit with some of the people at Carbitex. It's a really interesting material, and I believe it's the resin that they're impregnating the carbon fiber with is supposed to be preventing some of that cracking. So yeah, it definitely has some nice flexibility. I'm kind of curious to put this midsole back in though, and then compare it with and without the plate. So now my left one has no plate in it. My right one does have a plate. So the right flexes like this. You can see that cup sole is bowing out. There's nowhere for that material to go. And now this is without. Oh yeah, well, that's quite a bit more flexible without. Yeah, so for me, I like a little bit more flexibility. As cool as this material is, to run in, will probably pull it out. I'm gonna test it both ways though and see what I like better. Yeah, interesting. A lot of cool things, a lot of really unique things that you don't see from kind of the major brands going on here. These things are just so fun to play with. It's kind of, a few things that I almost just couldn't see happening if this was, something that you would buy at Foot Locker or Dick's Sporting Goods. This type of, very natural last shape usually is something that a lot of retailers push back on because it doesn't have the sleekness of, a traditional running shoe last, but I think it's going to make it feel a lot more comfortable. And for the people that buy this direct from their website, I think they're going to be looking more for the fit and the feel and the ride. That's kind of who they're appealing to. They're not so much appealing to somebody who just wants to wear a pair of running shoes to school or to work or something. I think because of that, right, because of the price point, because of the fact that this isn't a retail product, their website's doing a little bit more heavy lifting, right? Like you're going to have to really basically sell this virtually. And how do you sell a $375 running shoe that no one gets to try out in the store? So it's interesting to see, what athletes they're sponsoring. I noticed they had like easy access to reviews. I assume reviews are going to be super important for people to kind of like trust, should I spend this much amount of money on this shoe? But that's it. That's the Speedland SL PDX. I'm going to give these a run probably sometime this week here in Reed Canyon in Portland. There's a canyon right near my house that runs through some nice wildlife and has some beautiful trails. So I'm going to get these out and see how they feel. I got pretty high hopes for them though. I'm pretty excited, and yeah, pretty cool. Very cool technical product. Huge congrats to Kevin Fallon and Dave Dombrow on bringing this thing to market. All right, everybody. I'll see you next time.